Hello everyone, today we are taking a look at the Mobula8's HD. Yeah, I've got all three. We won't really cover the DJI O3 version because this is an early run. It's not really production and it's got some vibes in the picture. So after this video, I'm going to spend some more time trying to help Happy Model make this a solid product like you all deserve. So in this video, we're going to cover the HD version and the Walksnail version. If you haven't seen my previous review on the Mobula8, the analog edition, we're not going to go over the full specs, so I'll reference you to that video, which will be linked down in the video description. The main difference is the all-in-one flight controller on the Mobula8 is the X12 because it has the receiver, the VTX, ESC, flight controller all built into one, whereas this one is the crazy F405 HD, so it has Express LRS, and I think this might be Express LRS only. You might need to get yourself a module. And then the flight controller and the 12 amp ESC. But all the other parts outside of the video transmission are the same. We will take a quick peek at the O3 down on the desk, just kind of give you a look-see, I guess. The Mobula8 Walksnail edition weighs just a touch over 48 grams. These are the two batteries that I use in all the flights that you're going to see, regardless of version. For the Walksnail edition, you'll only see the red 550. A little bit about batteries. You can look at the C rating on the same brand of battery to gauge the performance, but that C rating is a bunch of marketing mumbo jumbo. You cannot use that to compare performance between brands. It's not standardized. They're all playing games. China Hobbyline tends to underrate their capacity as one of their games as well. So I'm not saying these are the absolute best batteries, but of the batteries I have that fit in the battery tray, and if you'd like to know which ones don't fit, I'll link you to my previous review video where I go over the batteries that I have. These two fit. This one performs better than this one, but not significantly, just a touch. And with the Red 550, the Mobula8 Walksnail edition comes in at just about 76 and a touch over half grams. If you go with the 530 yellow battery, it's just a touch over 74 and a quarter grams. The HDZero edition of the Mobula8 weighs 46.32 grams. And with the 550 milliamp 2S battery from G&B, it weighs just about 75 grams. And with the 530, it weighs just over 72.5 grams. This is an early run or kind of a prototype of the DJI O3 edition Mobula8. All the same components except for the mount, as well as, of course, the O3 air unit. I furnished these little antennas myself rather than using the big single antenna. With this current mounting, this might not be all that valuable because this could change before it actually comes to market. It uses nuts on, or it uses a bolt with a nut on the bottom and the top of this mount at all four positions. USB-C port right down there is available, but it's relatively snug against this particular brace. Our SD card slot is there. The zip tie on here did help to shore up the video a little bit, but it didn't solve the problem. So after this video, I will continue to see if I can't sort out a way of making this work, or we might just have to wait for the actual mold of this mount and hope that it's stiffer or solves the vibration problems. But wanted to give you a quick peek because some people will be excited about this. The big difference between this and the Pavo Pico is this is going to be much more capable of aggressive flight. The Pavo Pico is all about efficiency in flight time. It uses little tiny motors. This has got 1103 motors. It uses 45 millimeter props. This has got 2-inch props. So this is going to be much more capable of faster, more aggressive flight. It might not do it as long, but it's going to be more capable of doing that sort of flight while capturing it with your DJI O3. But that's going to be the only items that we discuss in this video about this particular version. All right, relatively calm day here, 7 to 11 mile an hour winds. That's relatively calm in my neck of the woods, and this is the Walksnail edition. I did process the goggle DVR, which is what we've got in front of us, through an OSD integration tool, which I featured on the channel a while ago, and I think I'm going to continue to do that because I think that information is vitally important for all of you to decide whether a particular quad is for you. Of course, you can get the video directly out of the VTX itself, provided you have storage space left on yours. I sometimes run over on mine, and that will give you the clearest, best possible video out of that Walksnail VTX. There won't be any transmission blur or anything of that nature. So, but what I'm showing you is what you would experience in the goggles, or at least as close as we can represent in the goggles. And yes, I know the lawn need mowed. I got it done like the day after this, but I wanted to take advantage of the calm winds and take this outside and fly it. And you know, one of the things that over the course of, I've had these 2-3 weeks. One of the things that kind of occurred to me is I kind of prefer the Mobula8s over the baselines. I don't know if it's just weight. I didn't go back and look at the weights or anything like that. I just find them more fun to fly. Of course, there's obvious advantage to the baseline. It's got carbon fiber, so it's less likely to break. I already showed you breakage on my original Mobula8 analog, and by the way, that will be the only crash that I will reference in this video either, because that is the most severe crash I had, and it did damage the frame. So for durability, you need to see that video as well. But I enjoyed flying this. This has got no image stabilization. That's something else that comes up. I didn't process through any sort of gyro flow or anything that does any sort of video stabilization. Only added the OSD for the stats or the information that is useful when it comes to reviews and different quads. So we can see our runtime, we can see our battery voltage, our amperage usage, we can see our throttle value, which is in the top left, and we can see a little bit of the canopy as well. That's just kind of that super large field of view, which is nice. I approve of the super large field of view and a nice crystal clear image quality and a 1S VTX or 1S capable VTX. It's technically not 1S VTX, but you can run it on 1S. But we get a little bit of canopy in view. I suppose if you got really fussy, you could take a little nail file or something and just kind of shave down those edges of the canopy to get that out of your way. But then you're going to be probably fully exposed to any sort of damage when it comes to camera, you know, being exposed to the elements and flippy floppies and crashing into fences and bricks and different parts of the house. But so we start with the outside flight because I think this is most viable outside. Yes, I do fly them inside. It's not something I think too many people would fly inside a home. I think at the very least, because it is a 2-inch prop, it is pretty jumpy as far as inside flight goes. It's got a high thrust to weight ratio or power to weight ratio. I think you want to have a larger industrial sort of space or something that has larger passes than a traditional home. You know, here in the States, our doorways I think are standardized 32 inches on interior doors and 36 for exterior doors. So that gives you some point of reference as far as sizing goes. Of course, I have a lot of people that tell me about the giant house that we live in. We live in the Midwest. Real estate is cheap, and we've spent 15 years of this home and saving our pennies, and I did a lot of home remodeling projects on this. We bought the cheapest home in the neighborhood and made it our own. Okay, I'm coming in for the end of the flight here. You can see here we got 3 minutes and 41 seconds, and our battery voltage, our average battery voltage, is already above 3.5 volts per cell, so we're in really good shape there. Let's jump over to the HDZero version. So first, a little apology. More wind on this particular day with the HDZero version. I've got winds at 11 to 15 miles an hour, and as you can see, my OSD, I couldn't crop the DVR down to get, you know, even black bars on the right and left hand side. So that is not really representative of what you see in the goggles, because I didn't move the Betaflight OSD elements on the left hand side far enough to the right so that I could crop that black bar off of there. HDZero, when it records DVR, it records the 16:9 even though you're flying 4:3. So for video production purposes, I typically crop that out. So a little bit ugly, but I correct it for the inside flight. Yeah, I got tangled up there a little bit in that tree, but we recovered. Found out my neighbors are moving. Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. You know, some things changed in life, and now they're going their own ways, and we're gonna have new neighbors. I didn't even know the house was for sale until the day the sign went up, and it went up with a for sale sign. I was talking to him the other day when I was out doing some yard work, and pretty much sold the first 3 days, I think. Yeah, I think on the third day they went through the offers that they had, because it was a Friday or something like that, and just decided to take, of course, the highest offer. That's what you do, right? As long as there's no contingencies and stuff like that. So he bought a house still in town, and he'll be moving out there. So we'll miss him. Good neighbor. I've enjoyed having him around, and I never got a chance to see his RC train fully developed, but he's got my number, and I told him, hey, when you get set up, let me know. I'm interested to come over to see your, I call them RC trains. They're the trains. He talks about the technology that they use in the trains, and they've moved along quite nicely, just like our drones have. But at any rate, so the HDZero version, of course, we could go into the sort of controversial topics of the reason why you might go HDZero over Walksnail. hopefully you've made your choice already, and this video is just going to show you what the particular versions of the Mobula8 flies like, and then you can make a choice on whether it's something you're interested or not, rather than going into... I will tell you about the inside flight stuff, which I think is more comical than controversial. It's just something that I think is important to bring to the channel. But keep in mind that the video transmission isn't as strong as the Walksnail, so you're going to see some what oftentimes rainbow sparkles. I don't hardly notice it, but I came into this hobby at a time that we were, especially in micros, flying 25 milliwatt VTXs that weren't very good, and antennas that weren't very good either. You never knew whether they were cut properly and stuff like that. So everything has gotten a lot better, of course, over the years, as you would expect. But I really enjoy flying these Mobula8s, and I've said it earlier, I kind of enjoy them more than the baseline. Now, I wouldn't poo-poo you and say, hey, if you got a baseline, sell it and buy a Mobula8. I wouldn't do that. But you might want to buy a Mobula8 frame and canopy and swap stuff over, and just to see if you're interested. That's money ain't free, so it is a little bit of an investment. I think the frames are, they're just less than $10. I thought I saw them on RDQ the other day. And then, of course, you got to buy a canopy. Maybe the canopy comes with the frame, too. I didn't look in that close to detail. But I think they're a lot of fun to fly. And I should mention that I think this was a formula that was kind of created by Mr. Shutterbug. Props to Mr. Shutterbug. I know he was working with Beta FPV, and Beta FPV kind of took his formula, I think, and made it into a bind and fly. It's been a couple years ago that he came up with that, so my memory is a little bit hazy, other than, Mr. Shutterbug he's a micro enthusiast, so a guy of my own heart, and he likes to race. Aww. And he has come up with some very low weight whoops over the years, and this is, I believe, one of his formulas that he came up with for a good fun whoop, specifically for outdoor flying. I think was kind of his design direction. Now I've taken a tumble into the grass, and I've got some, some schmutz on the lens, so our image isn't quite as clear as it was just a few moments ago. Such as flying, right? But I really felt like I could do whatever I wanted with this. Fly wherever I wanted. I could fling it just about however I wanted. Of course, you're limited in weight. But, yeah, good fun with the Mobula8s. Our flight has ended. Looks like I might have went just a couple of seconds over. We got 3.47 volts. Might climb up one more tick, maybe. Is it going to go up to 3.48? At any rate, maybe a couple of seconds too long on that particular flight. Let's go on to the inside flight. Okay, this is the Mobula8 Walksnail edition. This flight is going to start out kind of tepid, and so hang with it here in a bit. I do believe it is a full flight. I've got a lot of footage, and I get tired of going through it, so I tend to find one that works, and unless I've got a flight in memory that I'm trying to find, I'll just go through the footage that I've got and just pick the first one that I think works, that shows that how the quad can fly, at least in my hands. If I'm flying especially poorly, I usually won't use those flights, and I have days like that. Maybe I've had too much coffee or not enough sleep or something like that. I'm just not flying very well. I will tell you, the first day I flew these guys inside, I started with the Mobula HDZero version, Mobula8 HDZero version, and flew. I had 12 batteries. I've got 12 batteries that I've been using for these reviews, and I flew like 6 or 7 of them, and then I swapped over. I thought, yeah, I'll swap over to the Walksnail edition one and give myself a go. I could not make a lap around the house. Now I adjusted. It took me 3 batteries, and I adjusted, but it took me 3 more batteries to kind of get up to speed, and it took me pretty much another day to get where I'm at in this video. And that is me kind of talking about that difference in the transmission rate between HDZero, which is essentially almost real time, and they tout 4 milliseconds or something like that glass to glass, versus HDZero is 33 as far as the latency and the delay. It's when you go back and forth between these things, it's real, especially when you're flying something this size inside the house, where your margin for error is so small and your power to weight ratio is much higher than you typically fly in the house, at least for me. Even though I've flown a lot of these things in the house, it's a challenge. It's not something that I would say, if you're looking to fly primarily in the house, in any house, even a big house, bigger than mine, I would think it would be a challenge to fly this in that house. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, I'm going to fly inside mainly, I would look at the 75mm format. Actually, or you might want to look at the 65mm format with the 35mm props, which is something that I've taken a keen interest to since Beta FPV came out with that formula. So I would suggest looking at the smaller ones and dropping down to 1S. That's going to be a lot more manageable inside most spaces. Of course, if you've got the skill set or desire and the pocketbook to buy all the frames and parts you need to learn on something this powerful inside, you can sure give it a go. I wouldn't tell you no to anything you want to do in this hobby. I might advise, but I wouldn't tell you no. That's not my gig. This flight is actually going to go on for a while longer. I mentioned it in the specs, but I used the higher performance battery, so it's going to fly a little bit longer. Don't get it twisted and think that the HDZero one is consuming more battery, and therefore its flight time isn't what you would expect if you're comparing these two. I'm using a higher performance battery on this particular one. And I know that because when I had my battery packs out, I would show it in the screen. When I'd start my DVR, I'd show which battery I was using because I've got multiples of them. That way, when I'm doing my video editing and my OSD integration stuff, I can then bring that element to the video. I don't have to remember or take notes because I think that is one mechanism over the years that I've found that has worked is show it in the camera. That way when I put the video together with the flight audio, and no, this doesn't record flight audio, that's a separate camera that I use in post-production, then I can make that mental image. I don't even have to be listening to the particular batteries that I fly, because that can be important, especially when you're looking at quads. I fly a lot of GMB batteries, but I fly a lot of other batteries as well. I just tend to end up with a lot of GMB batteries because a lot of our battery trays seem to be designed around GMB batteries. And here I got stuck underneath the entertainment center downstairs, and it was just about too big to turtle mode out of there. And I thought, I'm going to use this video because of that factor. We know since turtle mode came around, it's been awesome because we don't have to go do the walk of shame and go get our quads and sometimes find our quads when they're behind a couch or something. But it's big enough to where you might not be able to turtle mode out of underneath things that you might normally be able to turtle mode out of. Something to keep in mind. I just about couldn't get out of there. I was just on the verge of going to do the walk of shame to pick that one up because I was sitting there going, I don't think that's coming out. But I got out to the edge close enough of that entertainment center cabinet that when I did hit it, that final time, it did finally flip over and it cleared just outside the entertainment center. I think here the last half of the flight, I'm flying it a little bit more in my traditional speed and manner. Of course, if you've got all sorts of skills and time, you could probably pull off some full case, full out runs. I did not do that in this particular case. This is getting to the weight to where I might be doing some damage to the furnishings in the house. And I like to stay married, so I try to keep the damage down. Okay, flight has ended at nearly 5 minutes. Like I said, I used a better battery on this particular run, and our battery is recovering up to 3.49 right now. Okay, as you can see here, we're back inside with the Mobula8 HDZero, and I've got the black bars trimmed down because I saw that in my outside review footage, and then I was like, oh no, I got to do my inside runs and move that stuff around. So more of a normal view. And yes, I do have the HDZero goggles as a background. I do use them. I do use different antennas that I want to have in that image, though. And I do use the Radio Master Zorro as my primary radio. I actually have two of them. I've kept one on ExpressLRS version 2, and the other one is on ExpressLRS version 3. I suppose I'll probably piggyback those and move those up as ExpressLRS editions come, if required. And then I just threw one of the channel logo icons into the screen of the Radio Master Zorro. I'm really curious if they'll do a Zorro 2 in... How long has that been out? Has that only been a year? It might be another year before they do a second iteration of that. But I'm curious if they make that screen smaller to make that battery life last a little bit better. Because that's the number one complaint. The battery life is not great, especially if you travel to fly. You got to take extra radio batteries. That's more gear that you got to take. In my experience, using the stock internal batteries, the radio will run about an hour, and that's not a big deal for me because I fly out back all the time, so I'm usually popping out for 30 to 40 minutes at a time. But if you travel to fly and you're going to spend an afternoon flying, that means you've got to take some extra batteries with you. I use a goggle battery between the bottom two knobbies down there that you hold on to, and the Velcro ties that it comes with, and plug in a battery there. That gets me all the runtime that I need, and I don't find it takes anything away from my comfort. Of course, I don't use a lanyard, and some people think it's strange that I pinch and I don't use a lanyard. I just kind of grip the radio with my ring finger and my pinky finger, and then, of course, the other fingers on the radio where I need them to fly. It just works for me. I'm a weird duck, I guess. I should mention that I have got another flight that I will link down in the video description. It's another HDZero flight. It's just a flight that I remember just having fun, and I think it's a better overall flight, but unfortunately, we were testing that it was the first Monday of the month, I think, or something, or the last Monday of the month, or something, and they're testing the tornado sirens. So I couldn't use that footage because of that loud siren sound. You know, and it would get the tornado sirens rotate here, so I don't know if they do that everywhere, but so it would get louder as the horn would come around in our direction, and then it would get softer as it moved away. Of course, I've crashed, and I also turtle mode, and we have that blanket there with all its little stringy ends, and I got tangled up, so I ended up taking off the props and getting all that stuff out of there. You can see me in my business clothes. Business clothes. Let's reset back to the table and finish up this flight here. I did talk to Happy Model about the Mobula8 overall, and that I thought that they kind of made a mistake and should have used their own 1102 motors. They went with 1103s. One of the other things I talked to them about when it came to the DJI O3 edition was, again, weight, efficiency. 1103s, in my experience, aren't as efficient as the 1102s, and they handle the 2.5-inch tri-blade, the 2-inch tri-blade prop very, very well. I based my favorite analog micro, the Rocket Race from Jack's 3D Printing, on those 1102s. They save a pretty good chunk of weight, and you can get a pretty good amount of flight time, really aggressive flight time on really small batteries. But so that's one of the areas where I disagree with some of the choices that they made, and they know that. Maybe I didn't word it as strongly as maybe I did in this video, but you know, it's their company, it's their choice. So even though I might think, you know, 1102 would have done this better than the 1103, they're gonna make their own choices. So that's one thing I would say. If you get one, specifically the Mobula8s, and then you want to try something different, try the 1102 motors. I think you're going to enjoy them at the very least just as much as the 1103 on the Mobula8, and you'll probably get more flight time. But availability can be difficult. Okay, we're finally coming in for the end of the flight. You can see me there with my famous glasses hanging from my neck. That's where they spend a lot of my time. But the battery's in good shape, 354 on the flight time, and 3.6 volts per cell. So I don't think there's really a whole lot of purpose other than redundancy to cover all the little details, as I've already referenced in this video 2 times. Go watch, and it'll be linked down in the video description, the analog, if you want some more component sort of details about this quad. Something else you should know right now is the HD versions of the Mobula8. It appears that they're only available in our Far East web shop. So Banggood, AliExpress, Maker Faire, those sorts of places, and I will put links to wherever I can find it down in the video description. As more shops it becomes available, please let me know, and I will add them to the video description so people can find these pretty easily. I would caution you against pre-ordering this right now. We still don't know if we're going to get stable video, and if you're flying a $240 VTX camera combo and you buy this particular one, I can't tell you you're going to get stable video out of it. So be cautious with purchasing the DJI version. The other thing, the question that I get about this is, can you use the controller that comes with, you know, the motion? I think it's the motion controller, or no, is it the controller 2? Yeah, I think it's the controller 2. This does have S-Bus, so you just need to change the UART that is enabled for serial S-Bus, and then you can use the DJI controller with the O3 Air unit, just like on the Pavo Pico. I don't have one of those to test, but That's the logic behind it. If you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, remember I've got links to both of these down in the video description. I believe they're pre-order, so Patient Pants. I do have a coupon code to a couple of those sites. You might be able to save a few dollars there. I've also got the what I call the Siren Flight, which is on the HDZero version, which I just thought was a super fun flight. If you're interested, it's there. If not, I didn't monetize it or anything. You don't have to watch any ads. Just a free flight to watch on this particular product. It was just an extra that stuck into my mind. But if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know. I know it was a long video, but I'll try to put chapters in it so you can just pick and choose or scrub your way through the stuff you want to see, right? Please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.